This is the 8-9 Combo.
This is the 8-9 Combo. I'm Brett McKay. This is Harry Jones. And the first domestic trophies will be handed out this weekend, mate. Hello, how are you?
How's it, man? When my son was young, he had.
Were you just about to take a mouthful of coffee as I asked that question?
Yeah, he had imaginary friends like a lot of little kids do. And one day he came to me though, and he informed me, my son, Dad, my imaginary friends have become my imaginary enemies. And that's always been profound to me. But nowadays, almost prophetic, because I think that's basically rugby social media. You know, just go on X for a while and see all these imaginary friends become imaginary enemies. And it's silly. None of it is real, guys. Calm down.
No, it's quite true. It's all very true. It's all very true. Here's cheers. To what are we giving cheers around the rugby world this weekend? From this weekend.
I want to cheer the best Australian rugby coach in history, Michael Cheika, win or lose. He has led clubs in Padua, Italy. He's done the Randwick thing. He's done the Leinster thing and won Stade Francais. He's done Australia, and it was the World Rugby Coach of the Year. We got to the finals in 2015. Coached Argentina to semi-final. And now Leicester Tigers, he's taken them from 8th in the league all the way to the final. He is a man that doesn't require perfect squads and cohesion indices, and everything's got to be just right. And he has a 3-year building plan. Please let me on. He just comes in and kicks chairs and gets his guys there and then leaves and goes to Lebanon or wherever he'll coach next.
Insert next job here. Yeah. He's made
Badass.
winning a habit, and then he's out of there. I'll give him that.
I also like him because he
have-
actually talks to me, and so I'm really in favor of anyone who talks to me.
Fair, more than fair. I say here is cheers to front rowers tries. The Brumbies lead at halftime on Saturday night in Canberra with 3 front row tries. Billy Pollard steered the line-out drive over twice. Alan Alatoa barged over for number 8 for the year from a total of maybe 4 meters. But things threatened to get out of hand in the first half when Tom Wright ran that absolutely outstanding inside line off Rob Valentini. But James Slipper to the rescue. Says, nothing more for you backs. I'll take it over from here. 5 phases on the Hurricanes line. Pick and drive try. Match won. 4 out of their 5 tries to the front rowers.
Knockout tries.
Weren't they happy about it?
No, there's a knockout tries. Those are tries that you have to score
Yeah.
through traffic, because the knockouts, the whole razzle dazzle doesn't seem to occur very often.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true. We can't wait to get into another great rugby chat with Riaan Louw in just a sec. But first, mate, tell the nice people why we would very much like them to become subscribers of the 8-9 Combo.
We are the most objective, empirical, and statistically based podcast in the rugby planet. There are 7,800 of you that are subscribers to this YouTube. I, on X, have 8,400 followers, so the math is damning to you. There's 600 of you that are following me on Twitter, but you're not doing this. Why? What possible Venn fuck-up diagram do you have in your head that you would follow me on X and not watch this? Doesn't make any sense. Who are you? Declare yourselves and make yourselves redeemed.
What are your names? Declare yourselves now. What's that say about my 6,500? Does that mean I'm over-clubbing?
Yeah, that's great. That's overperformance.
Very good. Very good. If you are on YouTube and you haven't tuned out after you've just been sworn at, just hit the red subscribe button down there in the bottom corner. And if you're listening to us on Spotify, on Apple Pods, any of the podcast platforms, then just hit like, hit follow, hit subscribe, whatever it happens to be, and you won't miss a minute.
Subscribe, snowflakes.
Now that we are rugby YouTubers, whether we wanted to be or not, we've been lucky enough to interact with and collaborate with and become even mates with some great content producers out there. And we take inspiration from plenty of them too, including this week's guest, who is so dedicated to the rugby YouTube craft that this year alone he has missed episodes because he's been moving house, and once because he just outright forgot. But he is One of our very favourites regardless. Please welcome back from the Rugby Update, Riaan Louw. Hello, mate. How are you?
How's it, guys? I also missed this past week because the joy of my great enemies, the Sharks, getting knocked out was too much to put into a script or record on a video. I've just been running around outside. Just there you go, karma for destroying my team with all your money. How does it feel?
Did you have a post-Sharks Mad Monday, mate?
I didn't care if the Bulls won as long as the Sharks lost. And yeah, I took a day off and I made sure I enjoyed every second of it.
Oh, that's just petty enough to be wonderful. Wonderful. You are in front of a new wall. You are creating new digs as we speak. Yes.
It's a bit echoey. I don't have new furniture yet. I haven't even taken the camera out of the box yet. This whole couple, what's it now, a month since my last video, has been moving house, which is, people say, the most stressful thing you could do. I believe them. I've had 2 kids now. That was way better than this. And then when we got here, I told you guys already, they stole the copper out of my ceiling. Copper in South Africa is very, very...
right.
Very precious. So the house was standing empty for a while, and when we got here, all of that stuff was gone. So no power, no water. I've had to sort that out for the past, 4 weeks, but slowly but surely we'll be there. I'll be back online soon.
The first rugby update will be a homecoming of sorts.
You built your career, Riaan, on melodrama, and you've been described as the Bridget Jones and the Monica Bellucci of YouTube rugby. Do you plan to incorporate all these misdeeds and shenanigans into a series coming up?
I might film myself in my ceiling showing evidence of where lines have been cut.
Yes, I want that. I'll subscribe to that twice.
Long-term evidence. YouTube is a great repository of evidence. Anything on here stays here forever. So I might do that. Might do a whole makeover of this office. The knobs have to go. You can see it's very, very rough behind me. Got to get all that nice and smooth. Go full YouTuber wanker and not dark gray and plants and all that kind of stuff.
What'll be funny is if you go through the house and then you come upon one of your kids and under the bed there's all the copper wire.
My Christmas present.
yeah. Getting around on a new bike and everything. Just pull out a green roller behind you, mate. That'll fix everything.
Yeah, no.
Just make it a green screen. Easy. That's cool. It's final time in the IRC. Can you believe we're already
it's taken months.
We're grand finals. Leinster v Vodacom Bulls. It's always amused me that South African teams insist on the corporate naming.
Have to.
That's where the big bucks are coming from.
It's part of the copper wire contract. Yeah.
You want to get paid, you better put our name at the front.
Now, listen, the fun thing about this final is the role shifting and the narrative, which we all love, which is Joe McCarthy, big Joe McCarthy, interviewed post-match, and he's like, everyone hates us now. We understand that. Fucking hates us. And they've accepted a mythical, imaginary enemyship, which doesn't even exist. A lot of what they're talking about is just internal ridiculousness. But I like it. I like it a lot. I like that they're like, no, we're the villains. And the Bulls are like, no, we're the big bad Bulls. And like, no, we're even worse than you. And so it's a race to be the one that's disliked the most. And unfortunately for Leinster, it's probably a little bit more true right now that people are just sick of that vibe.
Yeah, so I was going to ask about this. Is there a case that Dublin is losing interest in Leinster?
Maybe their own fans. They didn't like Riaan. Did you see that empty stadium? It was like, you can make it our empty stadium. Look at your empty stadium.
It's crazy. Can the loss to Northampton have broken them that much that no one even wants to go to the ground anymore?
Well, they were admittedly losing. So there is a thing about a team that doesn't lose very much, and then you just get walloped or you get denied. Sometimes you can kind of go sulk.
Yeah. Now, admittedly, the finals at Croke Park, which is 80,000+. The Aviva's out of action this weekend. Must be hosting a book fair or something like that. I don't know what it is. And obviously their usual home ground is too small. So, but a couple of articles I've read suggesting that the tickets for the top decks of Croke Park, they haven't even opened the top deck yet for sale. Mm-hmm. So they're talking about maybe 50,000.
Well, they had
Park?
17,000 for Glasgow, which is a sworn enemy. There were fights, niggle. It was obviously going to be devastating if Leinster lost that. So, Riaan, what's the deal there? I mean, is it like, are they just not good losers? Yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it can't be we're a bit sick of rugby thing, like the endless season thing, because the North does have an end of season. So if anything, South Africans should be the ones not going to games, but Loftus was pumping this past weekend. It was absolutely packed.
It was packed, wasn't it? Yeah.
It wasn't full, but it was very close. I think it was about 5,000 short of capacity, which is what you want for quarterfinals. I don't know if it's because of the whole foregone conclusion thing where people are just like, no, of course we'll roll Glasgow. We've already beaten them twice. Why would we go again? But I don't understand it. If my team was, when the Lions were making quarterfinals and semifinals in Super Rugby, I was there every single weekend. It was, I mean, you don't know when this will go away. And maybe over the next few years, there's a chance that it could start going away from Leinster if they're not careful.
3 years later, in your case, mate.
I did read that Irish School gets out sort of like a week ago, and there's GAA stuff going on, hurling and such. So it could also just be that, it should have been like the Premiership makes sure that it ends in May, and then the ERC kind of goes, well, let's go into June.
Yeah, except that the Premiership Finals this weekend as well.
Oh yeah, or something like that.
Yeah.
For me,
his point is strong. Apart from not knowing what the calendar says, his point is very good.
There's something about Ireland that they really go on holiday. Someone said,
right?
Like Dublin empties out or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's interesting.
So it's Joburg over December. There's just nobody there.
Everyone goes
to the coast.
It says like Canberra over summer, actually. Righto. So my question to you both: why will Leinster win this?
Because they're rich. They have more money than the Bulls, even though the Bulls are pretty rich as well. Okay. No, actually, I would say the kicking game and their ability to defend against the kicking game is probably where they would win. The Bulls back three, if it's not their first choice guys, it can get a bit of, everyone's been giving Sebastian de Klerk a lot of flowers this past week because he played so well against the Sharks, but I remember very clearly in the Champions Cup, Sebastian de Klerk looking very ordinary when there was a good kicking game put on him, and you can be sure that Leinster would do that. And then also, if they have Hugo Keenan, if they have O'Brien and those guys on the field, they are very, very good under the high ball.
Yeah.
Last year, that's how Billy beat Leinster. He almost by himself kicked them out of the game, but that was at Loftus, where they know what the weather's like, what the altitude's like. So now, being in Dublin, I don't know if they have the kicking game to match Leinster, and that's how you win in these games. You've got to have a perfect kicking game.
I think Leinster, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, would not have been necessarily looked at as prohibitive favorites. I think they've rediscovered their violence and their hatred of social mores. They're cleaning long and illegally again. They will push the boundaries for the Italian referee. They can buttress the kinds of places that the Bulls usually push on. I think there's a scrum asterisk to that, by the way. And it depends on what happens in those scrums, because no one's been able to contain the Bulls scrum. And that has a way of equalizing games. Remember Ireland versus England when it was a red card in 2 minutes for England, but 5 scrum penalties later, the score was fine at half an hour, at an hour. The other thing is, I think the Bulls rely on keeping you out of their 22. They're the third best in the league. The problem is Leinster's really good at getting into your 22. So I think, Brett, that's the reason why the Leinster will be able to be immune to some of the Bulls' pressure, like Riaan says.
Yeah, it feels like since that loss to Northampton in the Champions Cup, it just sort of feels like they've got a ruthlessness about them again. I mean, they put 70 on Zebre. They had to grind down Glasgow. That was a pretty tight game. But then they put 30 odd on Scarlet, 33-21 on Scarlets in the qualifying final. 37-19's pretty emphatic in a semi-final. against the reigning champions too. So I don't know. I said to you in the weekend post-mortem, Harry, that they just had something about them last weekend against Glasgow that they just were not going to get beaten.
It's violence. They've chosen violence. By the way, I think the Bulls will win, but I think
I'll come back to that.
The question you stated, hypothetical, is why will
they?
Win?
Yes,
and it's because they're sufficiently violent now to handle what has usually done them in. La Rochelle, Toulouse, the big bully packs. The Saints is an anomaly. I'm not even going to put the Saints win anywhere because I don't think the Bulls can replicate that, first of all. But I don't think many teams can put that together. I don't think the Saints can ever again.
I was going to say, Northampton haven't replicated it since. It's
a stupid plan. It's not going to work. But I think right now, Leinster has decided to be hateful and hated, us against the world. No one gives us credit, blah, blah, blah. And I love it. Bernard Jackman talking about the cards you've been dealt. Maybe you earned them, whatever, but they're in your hand right now. You should win every second, 2 times every 3 years. He said you shouldn't even think about the ERC. The ERC you should not even celebrate if you win, because that's just what you should, with a 10 times budget of everyone else.
I want to bring up one little element that underlines the ERC particularly, and to a lesser degree the Prem Grand Final as well. The British and Irish Lions Tour. So there is 30 odd players currently in Portugal getting ready to train up for a game against Argentina in Dublin a week after the ERC final. Now, I can't imagine that many, if any, of these Leinster players will double up for that game against Argentina. But how many of them are starting to think about what they're packing for Australia already? How many of them are going to go, I don't really want to hit that breakdown?
Definitely not Geordie Barrett or RG Snyman. So
well, that's fair.
They would be up for it. And I would think that Geordie would definitely start this time. That's another thing that we'll see, I think. I don't know. It's been so many years of losing. I would think they could get themselves up for it. Professionals should be able to. But how many players do they have in the Lions squad? Do they have enough guys to make a 23-man match day squad for the game coming against Argentina?
They've called the Lions have called 2 extras in.
Yeah,
they've still got 30, I think, in Portugal. But yes, you're right. There are 12 Leinster players in the Lions squad.
Well, they have a front row crisis. They're short on tight heads, and then they call Jamie George up with the possibility. It's like, hey, Jamie, just come train. Like, you just went on holiday. You're an older player. Come here and just throw up with us and train. Yeah. And then we're not even really going to take you. You're not even going to get to play a game against Argentina. I mean, like, oh, thanks. God, Queen and Country of the Lions. I do wonder about that, Brett, about the decisions when it really comes down to it. Let's say you're carrying a bit of a niggle, you're James Lowe, but you haven't told anyone about it. I might, if I was the Bulls, I might test that theory and just go full animal.
If anyone will, it will be the Bulls. They will bring violence.
It's like it's an interesting subplot, and because there is so little time between the end of the ERC and the Premiership straight into a Lions series, like they play Argentina in Dublin, and then they are straight on a plane to Perth.
But Andy Farrell would have known this from the day he was appointed. Yeah, because the chances are that his 14 Lion Leinster team would be in the finals very high. And so it's kind of odd that they're scrambling around a little bit. But I do think it's also because of the injuries that, are tighted. And what's funny about it for Australians is, the whole thing about the scrum being some of the Achilles heel, it might not be. You might actually have an edge at scrum time.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, I think there's
Angus Bell versus Finlay Bealham.
Could be.
Yeah. And this is also what happens when you pick players for your Lions squad that are currently injured. Because now you're sitting with these guys that you can't use on Argentina.
And there was always a question about Xander Ferguson, wasn't there? So look, it's going to be interesting. And you're right. Like how much training and preparation would they be able to do this week? Like there's obviously, as I say, there's 12 from the Leinster squad. There's 3 or 4, I think, across the Bath and Leicester teams as well.
It's hard to practice without hookers. Sorry.
Yeah. Hence Jamie George. So maybe Jamie George does play. Who knows? But look, I bet he's sent away on his summer holidays with a little bit of a fitness plan.
Yeah.
Jamie George.
There would be a list of maybes or guys who've been told, okay, don't.
Yeah.
Because I think they send the jerseys out to like 100 guys to take photos so that on the day of the announcement of the squad, they've got these guys that they can take. Yeah, they've got the PDF ready. So those guys probably already know, okay, stay fit.
Imagine having to take a photo of yourself in a Lions jersey and never being able to wear it again. That would be much fun.
Why?
I think that happened to Alan Quinlan, the guy who was complaining about the wink of Jaden, but he actually was quick as a lion, but then he eye gouged someone and couldn't go. But he was talking about that wink. Mr. Eye Gouger was saying a wink is bad. Jamie George is a guy that is when you're actually there at the grounds, he's much fitter looking than he does look on TV because he got a pie face. I mean, he's literally got a bowling ball for a head, but actually his body looks.
He's literally got a bowling ball for a head. Yeah, no, fair. Right, so that's why Leinster will win. How could the Bulls win?
Targeting
Scrum.
weaknesses. Yeah.
The scrum. It's the scrum. We've all seen what they did to the Sharks, a World Cup winning front row against the up and comers. It's actually quite exciting here in South Africa. We are obsessed with it. There's been articles on SuperSport about scrumming. It's been the lead up into half the games. It's just what are these front rows doing to each other? And it's been going again for the Leinster match. So I think that is the thing. If you are trying to put, again, I think there's going to be a lot of kicking high and trying to force knock-ons so that you can scrum.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, you can force penalties. So I think if it was me, that would be the first obvious choice of attacking the Leinster side is you get yourself in the eye line of the ball catcher, you put up the box kick, you put as much pressure as you can on the ball catcher and try and, if you can't win it, force a knock-on. So that's going to be everything. And then get into the scrum and get the referee to look at the Leinster props as quickly as possible. Just mention angles, talk about 90 degrees this and what the weather. Just put it in his head from the start of the week to start thinking about angles. And then there's a way in, I think. Could we see Harry,
the Bulls regather a kick and then accidentally knock it on?
Yeah, the scrum's been something formidable. They pushed this Leinster scrum around too. It was less than a year where they actually tight-headed them. The Bulls scrum has been magnificent, and like Riaan says, actually it's multi-layered because it's also very. These are ball-playing guys. Akker, Krobelaar, Jan Hendrik Wessels. We saw Wessels with his miracle track back and strip and put the guy in his lap and gave him a little dummy to suck. Vessels is an amazing athlete, and so Wilco's a tight head, but don't get me wrong. But the tight five, I mean, Kobus Wiese playing very electrically, Noordke being pulled over to big seven, the six for everyone else. It's a mobile pack. It's big, it's tough, it's mean, but it's smart and it's quick. Even with Cameron Honeycomb out, so I do think there's an opportunity with. Possibly Furlong out, Josh van der Fleer out, Kalen Doris. There's a bit of a weakness there where
there is.
I think the Bulls by this point know who they are, what they are. They've gone on the road and they've beaten Glasgow, they've beaten Munster, so they're not afraid to go. They've beaten Leinster in a semi-final before.
Yeah.
So I think the belief factor is there. Second, I think there's people playing, like Riaan says, playing better than normal. Sebastian de Klerk is a card machine sometimes, but on his day, when he's a scatterback, he's not a leckerback yet because he hasn't got a scrum cap. He's pretty good, and so I think if they can just be who they are, play that to the max, and then bank on the fact that Leinster might have a few doubts nowadays. Not huge, but there's a little bit, just a little bit.
Is speed going to be Leinster's friend and the Bulls' kryptonite? Like, are the Bulls going to want to play a slow, grinding game?
I'm not sure that Leinster's quicker than the Bulls.
I'm not sure they'd fast either.
No. That's not my question. Are they going to want to, or do they need to play it up tempo to try and run the Bulls off their feet?
Well, they've got to build a lot of rucks or have non-rucks. So that's probably true. Yeah.
Yeah, with
The
Jamison Gibson Park there, they could. He's on form.
Yeah.
He looks very good. But if you go after Prendergast, who's shown that he can get rattled, you can kind of disrupt their game there. And if you can get guys like Marcel Coetzee or Cobus Visa running at him, putting him on the floor and hurting him, like physically hurting him, you can really get into the game.
True.
I think that's going to be a big thing.
Predictions then? Score? Where's this going? I'm writing these down. Yes, you've actually done yours, haven't you already, Harry? You're trying to remember them.
And and I've actually submitted my plan to the Bulls on how this is going to happen. And it's literally what Riaan just said. It is run Marcu, Eskom, Marcel, a bit mad not being picked. Cobus Visa, who might have been one of the best seasons. Run them at Jamison Gibson Park and Sam Prendergast. I mean, literally, those two guys run over them. It doesn't matter what happens next. Just make sure they get touched a lot. I think the Bulls win it with a kick. And I think Sam might miss a few kicks. He's been shown that when he has been physicaled, that he misses kicks. His kicking game suffers because of his ribs.
Yep. So what was your score again? You said Bulls win?
Yep, by 2.
Score?
Low 20s. That's difficult to get, like 24, 22, 22, 20. It's not going to be a high scoring game.
I'm writing down 24-22. Riaan, what's your score prediction?
Leinster. There'll be probably 4 tries. 28. Bulls struggle against Nienaber's defense. 15.
Ooh, a bit of difference there.
Yeah. It's just that the defense of Nienaber, he knows how to shut down South African teams. So.
Yeah, true. Yeah, because he helped build them up. The Premiership Final then. Let's go the other way. Bath v Leicester Tigers at Twickenham in London. By contrast, and they're practically giving away tickets in Dublin. Twickenham sold out weeks ago. But I suppose my question to you is, who are the neutrals supporting this weekend?
Who do I like more, Johan van Graan and Thomas du Toit, or do I like Andre Pollard and Henry Liebenberg more? I'm not sure. Which South Africans do I want? I think I'd like Bath to win this one, just because Leicester won it recently. So I think it's for me. I want to see Van Graan and Thomas du Toit with a trophy. Fair. They are the guys for me.
I bet the neutral side's Bath because Finn Russell, Johan van Graan isn't unlikable. A lot of people don't like Michael Cheika. Not a lot of people rate Andre Pollard, or they think he's a little bit wooden in personality. On the other hand, Julian Montoya is cool.
Yeah.
And Izzy Perese, he's the sickest player on the planet right now.
Amazing.
Rod one, catching balls for fun.
On the strip, let's talk about the uniforms. Both
you can't split them. They're both very good.
Very likable. Yeah. Leicester is really like, I'm sticking with what we got. It's cool. And then I really do like the colors of the 2 different blues on both.
Blue, black, and white.
It's cool. Yeah.
They
have lots of different types of blues.
How does this league not make as much money as the French one? Look at how these semifinals went.
Fair
the
question.
Crowds,
fantastic.
The gameplay, I'm sure while you were watching Sale versus Leicester, you could feel 100 years of history between those 2 clubs.
Yeah, you definitely could.
Feel it oozing out of the TV.
So I deliberately asked the question about the neutrals because I'm going to watch this game midnight Saturday my time, and I'm thinking I genuinely don't know who I want to win this. I love the way Bath play. I've really enjoyed the way Leicester have bounced back and generally like them as a club anyway myself. I don't know who I want to win this game, which I'm kind of looking forward to. It means I can just watch it and enjoy it for what it is and what it's going to be, and which is a great game of rugby played in front of an unbelievable atmosphere. So I genuinely can't wait for the game. Buggered if I know who I want to win, though.
I never end the game not supporting a team. I just sometimes like not knowing until I watch the game who I'm supporting. And so for me personally, I don't know. Probably right now leaning more towards Tigers. But I think the main population looking at it, people do like Finn Russell. He's a likable
Yeah.
guy. I mean,
Yeah.
you might not like the way he plays and whatever. He's fun to watch, and I think that vibe might be the one. And Johan van Kraan being the sort of up and coming, quiet guy. He's not a Windgat, as they say in South Africa. He's really quiet. He's humble.
Are you
could play in his favor because Michael Cheika has his detractors.
Are you leaning towards Leicester though because Johan van Kraan hasn't returned your texts?
Because my hire Johan van Kraan for the Stormers coach campaign has not really taken off.
You want to see what we need. For the love of rugby, you want to see Dan Cole and what's his name, Ben Young's podcasting after.
Oh, I hadn't considered that. That's a really good point. Yeah, if they suddenly move house and don't do a podcast for a week, you'll know it's been a big celebration.
I love the Andre Pollard challenge to Ben Youngs of how soon he'll be 100 kgs. He just looks like he's ready to pop. The minute he retires, Ben Young's going to turn into a prop.
Pull the ripcord. So, same question then. Why will Bath win?
Power. Yeah, they bring power, and they bring power off in waves. They have a bit of a bomb squad. Ted Hill, Thomas du Toit. There's some real power units, and at the club level, if you can bring that, as some of the French clubs have shown, you can just sort of hang in there. It doesn't really matter what the score is at halftime. Orange is like whatever. We could bring in another battalion off, and it's hard to resist because you can pick and go and just go in and score. The other thing is Finn Russell has learned how to steer a team, and I don't think he's going to be a crazy Finn. He's going to be under control Finn.
Yeah, that's fair. Riaan?
Yeah, I think Bath have a big bench, very good depth. Barbary and what's the other guy with the red hair that they can bring on second half?
We call him Ginger Steph du Toit. Very strange looking fellow.
He hit Ben Spencer so hard in the celebration. Spencer went down with
he did too. That's right. He did. Yes, he really took the down.
And like against Bristol, they were playing mad rugby for that first half in the semi-final. They were doing tap and goes and trying to run it from their half, and you could just see in the second half, Van Kraan told them, guys, conservative. Back to Pretoria, become the South African, just kick it out from your own half, pick and go, and use the power game, which is what they did against Bristol. And I think Leicester has that kind of in them, but they don't have the second half power that being able to bring Thomas du Toit off the bench is like insane. Only the Springboks can do that. So
you know who's had an absolutely storming final series, Harry? Your man Tom Dunn. He's been a
doppelganger.
He's absolute doppelganger.
Been through the wars.
He's been enormous.
He plays hooker like a scrum off in that he has support lines. He's literally like running around there. And you're looking to see it's going to be 100 kg. Nope, it's going to be this guy.
He's running around like he's Dan Cole.
He's not a huge hooker either. He's like, who was it that was talking about? He's the ultimate club man. You're right. He's just a guy that fits at the club level. True. How could Leicester win it? Negation and frustration. Bath enters the 22 more than any other club in world rugby, 11.9. It's almost 12 times per. And when you are up against a team that relies on a strength, if you can take that strength away, so that could come from scrum, that could come from positional, that can come from Andre Pollard doing what he does best, which is frustration, sort of drill down the game, make it into a little bit more of a slogfest. Freddie Stewart claims all the high kicks. You kind of remove the ways that people get into 22, and then they sit there and go, we only got into 22 6 times, and we require those 12 times to pick and go. Tank du Toit gets over. It can be one of those games where you make your opponent play worse. I think that's the Tigers' approach, and I think Czech is very good at that, by the way. Of just big picture, looking at thinking, how could I make you miserable as me, and then we'll play a misery game. And
what can I do that stops you doing what you need to do? Yeah. Riaan, what do you think?
Oh, it's a bit of it's almost a wider zoom out South Africa versus Australia thing. When Checker was coaching the Wallabies, the Boks hated playing against them because the Wallabies, for some reason, could just unpick the Boks, the defense, like it was nothing. And this is Van Graan, who was coaching during the same period as an assistant coach at the Springboks under, I think it was under Meyer or something, when Checker was the head coach of Australia. And
Johan was the line-out coach, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And every time we played Australia, there would be some first phase move. So Solomon Kata, with the help of Pollard, just doing something that unlocks that Bath defense.
Yeah.
That's what I fear. I fear it's going to be a very much we're supposed to be so much better than these guys. Why are they just cutting us to ribbons? And I feel it might be a thing where it's not the big bashing thing, but almost a Northampton Saints versus Leinster thing where Checker just knows how to unpick a South African team.
What I love about the tie, and they've shown it beautifully over the last couple of weeks, is that they've just got a way of, when they're in possession, they've just got a way of sucking your defense in narrow, and then before you realize it, they've got 50 meters of space out in the far side, and I've probably exaggerated that a touch, but they suddenly have
field. They're playing a cricket.
It's as wide as it is long, but they've suddenly got more room out on a flank than you thought was possible. Like where have all the defenders gone? Well, they're all there in that little 20-meter channel. Yeah. Because that's where they were needed. So that's what Leicester has been doing really well. So yeah, we'll see. Predictions, scores, Harry. What was your
high score?
You've picked Leicester in this, haven't you?
I mean, truth be told, gun to my head, really, Bath should win. But I have a sneaking suspicion this is an upset weekend, and so I don't know which one. If I pick the Bulls, I kind of got to pick Bath. If I think it's going to be Leinster, then there's going to be an upset in these finals. I just don't know which one.
What have you committed to calligraphy? That's my question to you.
Yeah.
What have you written down?
And I like Riaan's point about the Tigers and part of that's because, and I have chatted with Checker enough where he's telling me about these individuals, and I think this is true. On your day, like the Saints did, you can convince your team that guy, he's got more plaudits, more caps, more this, more that, but you're kind of better than him. Like, you're better than him. And I think he's good at that. I think he's good at saying, chip on the shoulder. I didn't get born into a silver spoon. I wasn't from the proper schools in Sydney. I'm like you and me. And so I kind of like that. I think on the day, Tigers is a title-winning team, DNA. Bath is a team that always disappoints. Tigers. But
31
in a high score.
While you've been in that little monologue, I looked up your thing, and you said Leicester 31-28. Yes. What are you going with, Riaan?
Oof. Okay, so the Pollard Finn Russell competition, it's always been pretty one-sided to Pollard's side. We have always beaten them. Maybe I think this might be the one time Finn wins. I think it might be Pollard leaving the club without silverware. 30 late game 35 to, let's say, 27 for Leicester. I think
that'll be entertaining. Both those scorelines would be entertaining games.
Very specific. I like it.
Very specific. Yeah.
Late game. Like that. So that means like a spate of scoring in the final 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Genius.
That bench.
The bench.
Let's then get on to we'll touch on Super Rugby in a minute. Interesting little thing that you brought up this week, Harry, is you said that it's interesting that this last weekend just played, that the teams that won were the teams that played through. And for all Super Rugby's done it, the Premiership's done it, even the URC has had its moments. For all the expansiveness and for all the wide open play and all that, ultimately it's been done in the tram lines come finals time, which is not surprising. That's how knockout games are won. We all know that, but it is still interesting. That's become the default position in finals time for all these competitions. What
makes it more interesting than it would be normally is of the Saints Bordeaux final. So there was this thought of, well, what if we have shifted it? What if it has turned the corner?
Yeah.
And then, Bristol hanging tough until near the end, with their incredibly expensive style. Gloucester making a run. Bordeaux still in the league, of the longest league in the world, up there second. There was like, well, maybe, all these rule shifts are working. And then you kind of go, Blues, Crusaders, Bulls. And then Leinster winning because they went back to what they were doing early in the season, which is, I'm just going to beat you up. And across the French league, you see the rise again, of some of the power teams coming up who play through their packs. So, I do think the scores are still higher, but it's still achieved through, like you say, directionally. We're going to play through you. Shorter passes, less passes, not so many crazy offloads, and, set piece tries, or at least grind you down tries, not the tries from your own half.
Yeah, it was certainly interesting to watch the Brumbies Hurricanes up close, and that was a contrast of style. The Hurricanes throw more long passes than I think anyone, certainly in Super Rugby, but maybe in the world. And the Brumbies made the adjustments in defence out wide, and the Hurricanes suddenly didn't have as many opportunities. And the Brumbies just kept on going through their pick and drive, line out drive. The Blues did exactly the same thing to the Chiefs. So it's interesting. And you're right, Bath did exactly the same thing. Leinster have been turning that on exactly the same way. That's been going, no, this is the way that we play at this time of year, and you need to stand there and defend it.
I think if you have Saints and Bordeaux, it was sort of like, we're both going to play this crazy way. Saints, Leinster, like there's matchups there that work. But I think on a long league, and to get to the playoffs and to make all the way through, the one who can reduce their game style in the final to the least errors, the most executable, and you don't lose the ball in terrible spots. You don't lose it on your own 30-meter. You're only going to lose it on their side. I just think it's winning rugby, and I think it's quite fun to watch. Like, for example, I think Tigers against Bath is going to be just a a docks brawl, a wrestle for the knife in the mud, and no ifs, ands, and buts, no quarter us, like no way to hide. I kind of think the Bulls will try to turn that final into that as well. I don't know if they can do it or not, because Leinster's mighty good, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You could see it. You could see it in the Sharks game against the Bulls and the Bristol game as well for Bath. There were so many times where that off the line out, the Sharks would immediately go wide to try and get around the Bulls, and they would lose it. The first ruck on the other side of the field, someone gets tackled, it gets turned over immediately. It happened to Bath as well. They would try and run it wide off a line out or something very quickly, and then just, like you said, Harry, get turned over in bad parts of the field. Glasgow, if you go watch their game against Leinster this past week, and I went and watched it again, their first pass from the 9 off of set piece to the first receiver was sometimes 30 meters. It was Warner had to put everything into his pass to get it that wide. I don't know if it's to try and get past the blitz coming up towards the 10, but it didn't work. The blitz would just adjust to those guys.
It feels like you'd be passing into the blitz out wide.
They tried so hard to go wide fast, and I called it Franco ball because he's been doing it since the Cheetahs years. It is run at all costs, and with Glasgow, he's gotten a pack that's better than most packs he's ever had in his life. So they've been able to stop teams on the gain line and get his team into it. But the insistence at running it so wide so often, it does not work when you get to these championship games. You got to go through the middle, like you say, suck the team in and then go out wide, maybe with a kick or something.
So it will then be interesting to see how this does play out in Super Rugby this weekend, because I think there is a bit of a contrast of styles across those two semi-finals as well. Crusaders Blues on Friday night in Christchurch, and then the Chiefs Brumbies in Hamilton on Saturday. The Chiefs, as we said in the weekend post-mortem, Harry, the Chiefs tried to play a different game to the Blues.
They tried to say, now we're going to be knockout Chiefs, and they kind of backfired. They should have stuck to what they were doing for 10 games. And
even a few conversations that I had in and around the Brumbies this week, it was sort of like, Chiefs aren't going to play the same way twice, are they?
Maybe that's what it was. A little rope to confuse the brain.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So like it's going to be fascinating. Like have the Blues got another week in them? Like it's been such an overall disappointing season, but could they salvage a final out of it? Like it would.
Yeah, they could.
They could. Absolutely, they could.
If only so we can get more of their social media posts. Just for that team.
I do think it's a big could, because we look at seasons the wrong way around. We get too fascinated by sort of, stages and like in the Blues camp, all they would say is the job is to get into the finals. Okay, we got into the finals, and then we won. Who did we beat? Oh wow, okay, we beat the one that no one's supposed to beat. Are we really scared of the team that only a year ago was dog meat? I don't know if the Blues. I don't think they accepted the script when they handed the script. They didn't say you're the supporting. I think they're like, well, we could turn this into a cool story.
They tossed the script out weeks ago when they decided, no, we can still make the finals and we can make it bloody hard for teams. So
look around. So Tutu, Bowden Barrett, and there's Caleb Clark, Mark Talea.
Yeah.
Wow, there's world.
Let's go to war.
Yeah, exactly. But have they adopted that? Have they adopted that mentality? That we just have to get into the finals. Have they done that because the first half of their season was so terrible, was so disappointing, that's basically all they could salvage?
Yeah, I don't know what Vern Carter's like behind closed doors. He strikes me as a very, very formidable character at messaging, which is probably like, I don't know, don't worry too much, just keep your head down. And if you are an effective coach, you can convince your team that we're absolutely here to win. Like there's no asterisk. Whatever happened 10 weeks ago is dead and gone and buried. All we know is we the champs. Keep your crown.
Yeah.
I think it helps that it's the Crusaders as well. It's not hard to get up for a Blues versus Crusaders game. You don't need to motivate any of those guys.
And equally, you can just tell the Crusaders are thinking, if we inevitably have to lose a final at home, it's not going to be the Blues. Like, they're not going to do that.
But you know what's funny about it? When you look at the team sheet, the Blues backline is so lethal. Yeah, this is all these incredible All Blacks, and yet they play the narrowest in world rugby.
Yes,
the least passes. They are the least wild attacking, and yet you look at that backline, and you go, just get that second, third pass.
Get it wide, get
it to Talea.
No one can Clark and Talea have been. I mean,
Who can tackle Mark Talea in any kind of space?
Well,
he's kryptonite.
But everyone this year, it's been everyone, because he's hardly seen the ball, and when he has seen it, he hasn't done a lot with it. So he's not had that kryptonite cloak on.
I believe in that guy. If you give him space,
I know you
ridiculously hard to tackle.
I know. What about the other game? What fascinates you about the other game in Hamilton?
Can the Brumbies finally win one? Finally a semi-final. I would love it so much if they can. But Brian McMillan, last game for the Chiefs, last season with the Chiefs, they've just been humming along so well. Like it's got that Crusaders vibe where it looks effortless. They don't really seem to struggle to break teams down.
But they did that last weekend.
What was riding on that game? That was like one of those dead rubber things. I feel like there was a feeling there that they don't really care about that.
They wanted the Brumbies, Brett.
Maybe, but I'm sure
they didn't want to play the final away. I'm sure, but
I don't think any team's willingly giving up hosting rights.
I kind of think it is a battle of the coaches. The more I think about it, it's Larkham being sort of the best current Australian, domestic, someone coaching in Australia, but sort of overlooked, not part of the conversation. Very clever, sort of a devious, underrated sledging ability, Larkham. And then you got McMillan going, I want to go out in a blaze of glory, beloved, feared, respected by his players. I think that's the mini drama.
The little in-house narratives is what interests me. The Chiefs would be going, we can't be the best team all year. We can't be the team that ran first for 13 of the 16 weeks. and go out in straight sets
and choke in a
us.
trivia question manner. Like you lost 2 games in the playoffs. Who's the team that lost 2 games in the playoffs?
Yeah, absolutely. we cannot do that. The Brumbies would be going. We went to Auckland this year and won for the first time as a Brumbies team in 12 years. So if we can do that, if we can be the team that wins at Eden Park for the first time in 12 years, why can't we be the first Australian team to win a playoff in New Zealand?
Why not us?
Why
not us?
Why not us?
The Saints.
Why not us? Yeah, the Saints.
Yeah. So I'll be absolutely fascinated about that. Absolutely fascinated. It's going to be 2 really, really interesting, intriguing for multiple different reasons. Semi-finals.
Are you going to bring out all your superstitions for the game, Brett?
No, I
eat the right pie and have the right this and
that. No. Well, we're calling it from a studio, so there's no pies involved. We can knock that one out of the park straight away. That's an issue.
Yeah, but you'll be nervous personally because you really want this.
Yeah. The worst thing, and you both know this. The worst thing about being involved in rugby as we are, and a little bit connected to teams, is that you get to know players and coaches, and you get to talk to them, and you just want them to succeed. And that's for me. That's been the case in every sport that I've covered in day jobs and all that. You just want the individuals to succeed, and when they don't, you feel for them. So I will be nervous, no doubt. Riaan, this has been a great chat, mate. It always is. It always is a good chat. I'm glad that you could find some time in amongst home improvement there in Johannesburg.
But thanks.
Yes,
keep my shit.
Yeah. New locks on the doors for you, mate.
This is Africa. Tap all over.
True. No. Thanks so much for giving us some time as always, mate. It's been great to catch up with you. We will absolutely be talking to you through the international season, and we look forward to the return of the rugby update.
It's a pleasure, guys. I'll be back soon. Don't worry. They say action precedes motivation. Once I get that action going, the motivation will all be there again, and I'll see you guys every week.
Cheers, bud. I got the tickets for the box in August, so we'll talk.
Okay,
good. Yeah, another unauthorized.
Cheers,
This is the 8-9 combo with Brett McKay and Harry Jones, and mate, great to have Riaan Louw back on the 8-9. Love it.
Yeah, I feel bad about his copper wire though. So if everyone just send me $100, I'll collect it, and I'll be sure to give it to Ringo at Ellis Park coming up.
Sure. And I'm sure you'll bring it
in a big bag of cash.
And I'm sure that we will not blow it on the Lions tour. We'll be back with the weekend postmortem, which this weekend looks at finals and grand finals all around the rugby world. We can't wait to get into that chat and get it out Sunday or early Monday morning, depending on where you are in the rugby world. What's left of games of the week, mate? Well, what's left of the games of the week is it's finals time in France, the phase finale. And this is where my bad French takes over.
Finalement.
Barrage.
This is the denouement of the forever top.
Bayonne v Clermont in Barrage 1.
Nice.
That one is Friday night.
Because
it is Friday night.
Because the season's so long, all these teams have at least 3 phases in their season. So Bayonne's been really high, sky high, then it's been kind of down in the doldrums, and then clawed their way back in. Clermont's been kind of like nowheresville, and then going, hello, here we are at the end.
And as Hugh Griffin pointed out to us over the last couple of days and last weekend particularly, they've secretly just been undefeated at home this year. So they're doing a lot of things right. The access game, not the promotion relegation game, the access game is Saturday afternoon. That's Grenoble Perpignan. That's on Saturday, and then barrage number 2, barrage 2, Toulon Cast, Saturday evening in Toulon.
Yeah,
that could be interesting.
Toulon
that could be really interesting.
Toulon is a power team, as we're talking about. It's a bully team. Castres is more the skill base. So all the top 14 teams are highly physical because they can, they got a lot of Argentines there. They got a lot of Tongan, Samoan, Fijians.
Yeah,
they got a lot of this and that. But I do think Toulon has the quality at the end, I think, to take this. So I'll probably look at Bayonne.
I think Bayonne have got a better form line.
But you're on a Toulon
Claremont.
advance, I think.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
If that's true, it'll be really cool though, because it sets up kind of what people want to see.
Yes. So going back to that,
Final Four, yeah.
Toulouse would play Bayonne, and UBB would play Toulon. That's right.
Awesome. Which
is the top four. So yeah, that makes sense. It's conference semi-finals in Major League Rugby. The Eastern Conference semis, Chicago playing Old Glory and New England playing Miami. That's Sunday in the Eastern Conference. And then on Sunday, in the Western Conference, it's Utah, Seattle. On Saturday, Houston, RFC, LA on Sunday as well. So
the gosh darn Utah Warriors and the goddamn Houston Sabercats headed to a collision course in the West.
Yeah, it feels like that. And Chicago, New England, I think. In East. I mean, have Miami got one last spoiler weekend in them?
I said
they've had that. They've had a few spoiler weekends in them this year.
I said to the Blues social media guy that he's the second best social media guy in the world. He's like, who's the first? And I think it might be Chicago Hounds. They're really good too.
Yeah. They're going all right.
They're very cool. Fair. I would like to have that as a tournament. Social media tournament.
Social media.
Against the Chicago Hounds against the Blues.
How they could start with is just a social media poll. Who is the best social media?
Who made you laugh more? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The Harry Index. It's an interesting little update, this one. 3 from Super Rugby and only 2 each from the URC and Prem. To say that has not gone down well is the understatement of the week.
Wow. I'm actually pulling out the Harry Index.
Yeah, there it is on screen again.
So I can look at it.
Bordeaux, Bath, Leinster, Bulls, Toulouse, Leicester, Chiefs, Crusaders, Brumbies, Claremont in 10th. And then you've got only one team in the bubble, Bayonne.
There's a winnowing out at the end. So, the claims, the assertions of a team like, for example, Northampton Saints, they fall by the way. And I think that's going to happen for Super Rugby as well. Super Rugby is about to have a bit of a winnowing of the chaff from the wheat. So obviously I don't think that, this weekend will probably end or continue the Brumbies sort of rise or continuance in the top 10.
It will probably end or continue. That's huge if true.
It's very interesting because if they lose, they're not going to stay in. Other teams can lose and still stay in the top 10. I think Super Rugby is not going to have 3 teams in the top 10. On the other hand, top 14 could have more than it has right now. And so depending on how battle royale some of these games are, if they take it to the wire. Toulon has been kind of one of those teams that's been very difficult to rate. So they have a chance right now of getting right back in the mix. They were doing really well in the Harry Index all year, and they just kind of fallen off. But I think that might be the surprise return. And then, so the Prem, teams like Sale, done. Saints, done. So it just comes down to 2.
So that's leading into...
The Prem has not been great, but so you cannot analyze a team just this way and say a league itself is stronger than another league. There's also the question of the peloton of the league and how good the top is. So you could imagine a league where the league itself is kind of dog shit, but there's one team so good that it's so dominant. It's like having one big city in a country, and then that's everything is about there. So I do think the difficulty on top 14 Super Rugby, to me, the 2 hardest ones to compare, the length of the season, what the true peloton is, and how tough the 4th best top 14 team is compared to the 4th best Super Rugby team.
And that's fair.
I don't even know who the 4th best Super Rugby team is, by the way, because it's difficult to decide that with the playoff system. We know who the top 3 is, but I don't know who I'm not sure who the 4th is.
That's
the Blue. Even the Blues Canes is difficult.
That's fair. My question to you, and it was sort of played out early in the season, and you had teams actually going up in the index despite not playing, which always amused me. And it certainly amused me that you had the Blues as high as you did for as long as you did. How is the index going to play out? Does the index take into account that competitions will end? So teams can't they're not playing to hold their position. They can only drop. relative to other teams. So how is the index going to work with, like, it should finish with 4 or at least 3 or 2, whatever it is, top 14 teams on top, because everyone else has got to slide down because top 14 season runs longer. It's got to work out that way, surely.
No, because you're always still looking for relative quality over the long course of the season. It even could be an off-season Harry Index sort of 3 months later that talks about signings, for example. You could say that this team lost more, gained more, and it's a projection. Right now, it's not a projection. We're actually
the Harry Index free agency edition.
But the reason why a team could go up by not playing is because every single time teams square off, we get to know more what we thought we knew before.
Yeah.
Because there's this great college index in American football where they have when you beat that team, you thought they were ranked there, but now that we know what we know, now they're ranked there. And so it continues to keep moving. But they play so much and the conferences are so interlinked, it's easier to do that. And this one, I have to make it up. I mean, Bordeaux is not going to play the Crusaders, but you can extrapolate from that the entire league itself, which I ranked at top 14 was the best, but I get way more into that because I've looked at the pelotons for 3 years now. And where does that middle point reside?
Yeah.
You cannot compare the 6th team in the Super Rugby to the 6th team, let's say, out of the 40 teams in the North. You have to look at the middle, the middle.
Yeah.
So Super Rugby does have some merits. It's not quite as simple, but I do think you can look at this now and say, I cannot imagine a scenario where the 3rd or 4th place Super Rugby team is above the 4th place top 14. It's very difficult to imagine that because the testing that you go through in top 14 is insane.
And just the fact that it runs.
They're built for war. They're built for injuries. That no one ever says injuries. That no one ever brings that up in top 14. It's like, of course you have injuries.
No, that's it. That then, mate, is another great episode. And thanks for that. Thanks for the explanation because it's interesting to get a insight into how your brain works, meaningfully sometimes. That then is another great episode of the 8-9 Combo Rugby Podcast behind us. Our sincere thanks to Riaan Louw for joining us, and absolutely go and find the Rugby Update, find his YouTube channel, hit subscribe on that because he will have another episode out in the next few weeks and you won't want to miss that. Harry and I remain on the socials in our usual places at Harry Baldy Jones and at BMC Sport, and don't forget to follow to find the 8-9 Combo on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and on YouTube as well. Leave a rating or review wherever you can. Share us and all of that sort of stuff as well. That would be great. Thank you. This is the 8-9 Combo, the short side set piece combination you didn't realize you needed in a rugby podcast. Sean Maloney is ready to fire up the closer. I'm Brett McKay. He's Harry Jones, and we'll be back in your ears in a few days' time with the weekend post-mortem.
Come play off with us.
Here goes Jones with another bruising run. He links up with McKay, who pops back to Jones. They can't. They won't. They will. What a try. The Dream Team Combo go in again.